Okay, class, today is your comparing and ordering rational numbers lessons. And if you need to stop throughout the video at any time and have a discussion, go ahead and stop. But we're going to compare and order rational numbers. The objective is to learn to compare and order positive and negative rational numbers written as fractions, decimals, and integers. Okay, so let's look at this first one. When we look at our inequality symbols here, this means less than, this means greater than. And then you should know that that is your equal symbol, okay? Now, some students will get confused on which one the less than symbol is. So, if you hold up your left hand starts with an L, and it looks like the less than symbol. So that might help you from getting confused with your inequality symbols. Okay, so on this first one, what we're going to think here is we're going to think benchmarks. Okay, so on a number line, when we think benchmarks, we think of the number 0, 1/2, and 1. Okay, so you need to think 2/8. Is this closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? Okay, so let's talk about that. 2/8. All right, so, well, what is 1/2? What would be 1/2 and 8? Well, what's half of 8? 4/8. Okay, what would be 1 and 8 when you have all of it? 8/8. Okay, so is 2/8 closer to 4/8 or 8/8? It's closer to 4/8, so it's closer to 1/2, and it's less than 1/2. 2 is less than 1/2, so it's going to go right here somewhere. All right? So it's going to be between your 0 and your half. So for benchmark on here, let's say that it's closer to 0. All right, for 7/12. Let's look at 7/12. Okay? Well, what would be half? What's half of 12? 6. So there's 6/12. And what would be a whole if you have all 12? It'd be 12/12. Okay? So 7/12. Is it closer to 0? Is it less than 6/2? No. So we got to go to a half or 1. Well, 7/12, is it closer to a half or 1? It's going to be closer to a half, but it's going to be on this side. Okay? So this benchmark, let's put it right here, is 1/2. So when you look at your benchmarks, 0 is less than 1/2. So this is one way you can compare rational numbers, which are your fractions, by thinking benchmarks. All right, another way you compare is by coming up with the common denominator. Okay, for common denominator, I'm just going to multiply my first fraction by this denominator. What you do to the denominator, you must do the numerator to keep it balanced, because 6/6 is the same as 1. So 3 times 6 is 18. 4 times 6 is 24. Okay? On this one, this denominator, I'm going to multiply it by 4, because I want my denominator to be common, the same. I want it to be 24. So 5 times 4 is 20. Once you have the same denominator, class, you're comparing the numerator. Is 18 less than, greater, or equal to 20? It is less than. Okay, on number 3, let's think benchmarks. Okay, so we need to think, is 5/6 closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? And is 7/10 closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? So what do you think about that one? Well, half of 6 is 3, and 5 is to the right of 3. A whole of 6 is 6/6, so I'm going to say this is closer to 1. Okay, 7/10. Well, what's half of 10? 5. So 5/10 is to the left of 7/10. So this is between 1/2 and 1. Okay? It's kind of closer to a half. So 5/6, the benchmark is 1. 7/10 is closer to a half. Therefore, this is greater. Now you're thinking, well, why is this closer to a half and not closer to 1? Well, half is 5/10. So it's 2 digits to the right of a half. And it's, for a whole, it is 10 minus 7, 3 digits away from a whole. So it's closer to a half. Okay, a fourth way that you can compare rational numbers is by coming up with a decimal. All right? These fractions you should know, but if not, you need to work it out. Okay? So how many times will 3 go into 2? It won't, so you're going to annex a 0 here. How many times will 3 go into 20? 6 times with 2 left over. So the decimal, the decimal of 2/3 is 0.6 repeating. Okay? This is a fraction that you should have memorized when you change it to a decimal, but if not, how many times will 5 go into 4? It won't, so annex is 0. How many times will 5 go into 40? 8 times. So this fraction is equivalent to 0.8, which is 8/10. Okay, when we're dealing with fractions, class, think of money. So this would be the same as 66 cents. This would be the same as 80 cents. So 66 cents is less than 80 cents. Therefore, 2/3 is less than 4/5. Okay, let's look at number 5 here. When we're dealing with mixed numbers, a mixed number is a whole number and a fraction. If you have the same whole number, which we do here, it is 3. All you need to do is compare the fractions. So we're going to compare 3/8 to 3/5. Okay? You can choose any method you want. I like to use benchmarks because I can see that this is less than a half on a benchmark. Because half would be 4, so this is a little bit less than a half using benchmarks. This here, half of 5 is 2.5. This would be a little bit more. So this is less than a half. This one is more. Okay? So if this one's more than a half, I know that this is greater than 3/8. The 3/5 is greater, or the 3/8 is less. So when I write my final answer, I need to put that mixed number back in. So 3 3/8 is less than 3 3/5 because 3/8 is less than 3/5. Now if you want to change that to a decimal, or if you'd rather change it to a common denominator, you may. Okay, see if you can do 6 on your own. Okay, class, there's many ways that you can do this. What I did is I came up with the common denominator. Because we have the same whole number, I don't need to worry about that 5. Okay? So once I come up with the common denominator and multiply my numerator, I compare the numerators here, okay? So 14 is less than 18, therefore 5 2/9 is less than 5 2/7. And sorry about that phone, but I'm going to keep going here. Okay, so what we have here is we have a decimal and we have a fraction. You need them in the same form to compare. So I'm going to change 6/10 to a decimal. And guys, did you hear what I said? I said 6/10. So if you can read that correctly, 6/10 is 0.6. And don't forget that negative. Okay, when we're dealing with negative numbers, here's 0, here's -1. Okay, and let's put right here negative 0.5, which represents 1/2. Okay, so negative 0.53 is going to be somewhere right here. Negative 0.6 is going to be to the left of that. Okay, when we're dealing with negative numbers, just like with positive numbers, the number that is farthest to the left is your least. Number farthest to the right on that number line is your greatest. Well, 53/100, negative 53/100 is farthest to the right. So that has to be your greatest. This here is greater than negative 6/10. Okay, let's see if y'all can do 8 on your own. You want to change that fraction to a decimal. Or you can change 8/10 to a fraction, either way. I'm going to change it to a decimal. Okay, I can stop there because 9/11 is 0.81, and then I have 8/10. Well, if you think money, 81 cents is greater than 80 cents because I can put a 0 there to represent money. Therefore, 9/11 is greater than 8/10. All right, I'm going to need to stop the video and start another one because I only get 15 minutes on these videos.